So it's almost the end of 2024, and I just wanted to share with you some of my favorite gear of this year. This is in no particular order. I'm not ranking it based off of which I like more and what I use the most. These are just all random products that I just thought of that I really used a lot this year and I really like, and I just wanted to share that with you. This is not sponsored by any brands. No brand asked me to make this video. Full disclosure, some of these products were sent to me by brands earlier this year, but they did not send it just for this video, and I chose this list based off of what I used a lot this year, and this is just some of my favorite pieces of gear. So first we have the Tamron 35-150, and this is probably my most used lens this year. So I really like this lens because it goes from a 35mm all the way to 150mm, and that focal range is really insane. A lot of the normal mid-range zooms that you see, it only goes from 24 to 70, or there's like the new Sigma one which goes from 28 to 105, but 105 to 150 is still a really big difference. You're still getting 50mm of range, and for some people, they might say that this lens isn't wide enough and it only goes up to 35mm on the wide end, but I do have a 24mm prime that I like to use if I want to go wider, or a 17-28. But for most of the scenarios I shoot in, 35 is wide enough for me, and 150 gives me so much more range that I basically ditched my 70-200 because of this lens, because the compression is so good on this. I also really like that the aperture for a lot of the lenses in this range, for like the kit lenses, they might go from like f3.5 to 5.6, but this actually goes from f2 to 2.8. So at 35mm, it's at f2. I believe around 70mm, it goes all the way up to 2.8, and then it holds at 2.8 all the way to 150. So you're getting really good low light performance out of this lens, even though it has such a crazy range. It's also super fast at focusing and sharp enough for what I needed to do. My only downside is that because it has such a crazy range, it is pretty heavy. I believe it comes in at about 2 pounds. It is going to be a lot heavier compared to, let's say, like the Sony 24 to 70, but because it has such a crazy range, I think the weight is well worth it. The only other downside about this lens is that the weight, a lot of the newer gimbals like the DJI RS4, it will be able to handle this weight, but it does extend out quite a lot, so it is going to be a lot harder to balance on a gimbal. So if you're looking for a lens that you can also put on a gimbal, I probably wouldn't recommend this lens. But if you are going to be just shooting handheld and doing a lot of photography, videography, I think this lens is definitely worth checking out if you don't already have it. So next up we have the Smallrig RC100B, and this is probably my favorite portable light of this year. So a lot of these portable lights, you have a few ways to power it. You either have a proprietary battery, or you can plug it into DC and then connect it to an outlet, or you can connect it through USB-C. And I don't really like the USB-C option just because for a light like this size, which is 100 watts, you're going to need a power bank that can output 100 watts and also the proper cable to output 100 watts. And then you also have to find a way to attach the power bank close enough to the light so that if we're going to move the light around, the power bank also goes with it. Or you can power some of these lights off of the MPF batteries. And I don't really like the MPF batteries because a lot of the times you either have to use a small MPF battery that's super light but doesn't have a lot of capacity, or you use a bigger MPF battery that has more capacity but it's a lot bigger. And then even for some lights, MPF batteries don't output enough power to do 100 watts. So this is where the RC100B comes in. At the back, it has a V-mount plate. And I use a lot of V-mounts because I do a lot of camera rig stuff. So I have a lot of these lying around. So I like that I can just mount the V-mount directly onto it. This supplies the full 100 powers that I need. I don't have to attach any other cables. This can just go with me anywhere. And it makes this a very powerful but still compact setup. If you do like using MPF batteries though, they do have this adapter plate, and this can just slide directly onto the back, and then you can put in your MPF batteries here. But again, it still doesn't supply the full 100 watts and you need to put in 2 MPF batteries. So I much prefer just using the V-mount, just sliding it in that way. This is also a bicolor light, and you have 2 dials on the side, one to control intensity, one to control your color temperature, and then you also have like the standard effects modes. And if you really want to, you can plug it in through USB-C or DC, but most of the time I'm just using like this. It does use a proprietary mini V-mount plate, but I picked up this adapter for it so I can slide the adapter into the light. I can mount it onto a light stand at the bottom here, and then this lets me use my regular Bones mount modifiers so that I can attach any of my soft boxes onto it. If you've watched my past couple of videos, you've actually seen this light. I've been bringing it around with me on shoots. Most of the time it's when I need to shoot products at night. I can just bring this up with a little light stand and a softbox. It's very portable. I'm only using a few % of the power, so I'm not draining the V-mount battery a lot. I'm very rarely blasting this at 100 power because most of the time when I need to blast at 100% power, I'm able to plug it in. But if I really need to, I can blast at 100%. And again, super compact and powerful setup. So next, we have some of my favorite lenses this year, and that's these ones. These are the Blazar Remus anamorphics, and this is the B set. The A set came out earlier this year, and then the B set only came out a few months ago. Here is the 50mm T2. I have the 85mm T2.8, and then the 125mm T4. And this is the amber set. I still need to show a lot more on these and give you guys like a full review of it, but I do have some spec work and projects coming up soon and I will be using these. But these just make everything look super cinematic. If you don't know what anamorphics are, they basically give you that widescreen look that you see in a lot of movies. Everything just looks super cinematic, and you're also getting that really nice horizontal flare. These are definitely super unique lenses, not lenses that you would use for every single project, but I do really like the look of these, and I definitely will be using these a lot. I've also been doing some anamorphic photos with these. They just give you that like panoramic X-Pan look, and you can get the same thing with these anamorphics, and honestly they're just one of my favorite lenses that I've used this year, and they probably will be my favorite lenses for a while. As you know, I really like the golden hour flares, so with these anamorphic lenses also giving that horizontal flare, obviously you know that's going to be one of my favorites. Next, we have the Sennheiser MKE600, which is a shotgun mic, which is actually what you're listening to right here. So I'm going to bring it down. So this is actually a main mic that I use for all of these talking headshots, and I really like it because I can put it out of frame and still get really good audio. So the difference with these and like the smaller shotgun mics that you have on your camera is, in very general terms, the longer the shotgun mic is, the longer the reach. So you'll still get good audio even when you put it a little bit farther away compared to those small shotgun mics. And for like these talking headshots, I don't really like using a lab mic or having the mic in frame. So I really like being able to boom it up above out of the frame of the camera and still be able to point at me and get good audio. If you see right here, this is an XLR cable. So it is an XLR mic and you will have to provide phantom power to it. But because I've been using the FX3, they actually have the XLR top handle. So I'm able to just plug in this mic right here into this slot and then connect it to the handle. And that also supplies the phantom power that I need. And now I can use this mic on top of my FX3 and get really good audio that way as well. This mic is also definitely not considered cheap. It is, I believe, $250 USD, but compared to some of the more popular options like the Sennheiser MKE600 and the MKE600, I think this mic for its price is really good value. And I think if you're looking for a shotgun mic of this style without blowing the bank, the MKE600 is a really good option that you can consider, and it'll still be able to take you very far into your career. If you are interested in this mic though, the MKE600 comes with one of these windscreens, but if you're going to use it outdoors, I definitely recommend picking up this furry one. This is just way better at blocking out the wind noise than this one, so I definitely recommend picking up the fluffy one. Next, we have memory cards, and I've been using these ProGrade CFExpress Type A cards for a while now. I've actually been using ProGrade for a couple years now. They've been my go-to brand for SD cards, but recently I got the CFExpress Type A cards. This is the Iridium 960GB cards, and they've been super fast at transferring files, and honestly after using these, I don't know if I can go back to regular SD cards. These cards actually have pretty insane read and write speeds, so they advertise 1800 megabytes per second read and 1700 megabytes per second write. And after a long day shoot, especially if I'm at like 100, 200 gigabytes of footage, being able to just transfer all of these in like a minute or two, it just saves me so much more time, and it's super nice compared to normal SD cards. Even with like V90 cards, if I'm transferring 100 gigabytes, it might take me like 20 or 30 minutes. With these, it literally only takes me like 1 or 2 minutes, and that's super nice. The next item on my list is my Synology NAS. So I don't have it here to show you just because it is downstairs and I don't want to unplug the whole thing and drag it upstairs for you to see. But basically, if you don't know what a NAS is, it's like your own server for backup. So I have 4 drives in it. each drive is 18 terabytes of footage, and that's what I use to back up all my footage that I shoot. Basically, after a whole day shoot, I'll transfer all my footage onto my SSD, which is my working drive, and then I have it set so that it automatically backs up my whole SSD to the NAS, so all my footage gets backed up again onto the NAS. I also really like that the NAS has its own backup system. So let's just say it has 4 hard drives there, and if one of the hard drives die, as long as I replace the hard drive before another one fails, it'll know what footage was lost in the hard drive, and I'll be able to build everything back up. And that gives me a redundancy in case one of my drives ever fail. And then because it is a NAS, which is network attached storage, I'm also able to access my files remotely through a VPN, so that if I want to, I can always grab my footage wherever I am. Obviously, it is going to be a bit slower, so I wouldn't recommend backing up a lot of footage remotely. But if you just need to grab a file or two, or if you're just missing something, then it is a good way to be able to remotely access your files. If you're interested in learning more about my backup system, definitely let me know in the comments below and I can make a whole video on that. Next we have these little guys, which are mist filters. And again, you've seen me talk about this a ton on this channel, but I really do like these mist filters. I use them pretty much all the time. I vary the strength depending on what I need, but pretty much all the time there is one attached to my camera. If you haven't seen a mist filter before, I'll just show you a quick few examples. It basically just blooms out the highlights, gives you more of a softer look. I do think that a lot of the lenses out these days are very sharp and too digital, and this kind of just softens up a little bit and gives you kind of that filmic look, and it just makes everything kind of more dreamy. Next we have backpack clips. So I really like backpack clips because if you're not using a camera strap and you don't want to hold your camera, you can just slide the camera onto the clip. It doesn't go anywhere. They also have a switch on it so that you can lock it, so that even if you're pressing the switch, the camera doesn't come out. And if you want to, you can unlock it and the camera slides right up. And I really like using backpack clips because I don't like holding onto my camera all the time. Sometimes I just need my hands to do things, and I don't like wearing camera straps because they do end up swinging around a lot, especially if I'm like hiking or walking up some stairs or something. So being able to just quickly slide it onto the backpack clip just makes it so much easier. If you are looking for one, I do recommend the Falcam one. I've tried a bunch of other ones, and by far the Falcam one is just my favorite one. It's super slim, it has a very low profile, and it's just very easy to take off and transfer between bags if you're using a couple of different bags. And I really like this. My only gripe with these backpack clips is that if you look at the shape of it, you have to use these square Arca plates. So they don't work with like the long Arca plates that you see on the bottom of a lot of camera cages. You have to use a square one. So that means that I do have to end up like this, attaching another square plate onto my camera cage. So I wish companies would end up just designing a backpack clip where you can use the long Arca plate and be able to slide in that way instead of having to attach these square plates. So next we have the DJI Lidar. And if you haven't seen this before, it's basically just a way to turn your cine lenses or manual focus lenses and give it autofocus. I do have a full video of like my first impressions of using the system, so if you want to check that out, again, I'll leave it up here or in the description below. But this is a very kind of like controversial piece of tech. Some people really like it, some people don't like it, and I have found some few quirks about it. But basically, if you're shooting people, I think it does really well at tracking faces, especially when I'm using like the Blazar anamorphics and I'm shooting very fast-paced stuff. We were shooting ATVs a couple weeks ago. I was just able to track people's faces perfectly, and to be able to give these cine lenses or manual focus lenses autofocus and be able to track things that fast is just kind of like a huge game changer. But on the other hand, if you're shooting a lot of things that require a lot of detail of focusing, maybe you're shooting a lot of products or just things that are not people, because the LiDAR is very good at tracking people, but once it turns into like objects and stuff, it doesn't know what to track, and I have found that it's not as good. So again, I'll leave more of my thoughts on this for my full review, but basically for right now, my thoughts are that if you're using it to track people, I think this is pretty good. I've gotten a couple other friends to buy this and they've also liked it. But if you're trying to use this to focus on objects and stuff, I probably would just recommend sticking to a regular manual focus system. Next we have super clamps and magic arms. And this just allows me to get some very unique POV shots that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. And a lot of people do POV shots by just kind of like tracking your subject. But the unique thing about these is that you're getting a very locked off shot where your subject is perfectly still, but then the background is moving. And that just gives for a very unique angle. But if you're not using it for POV shots, it's just very good at holding things. So if you see this light right here, it's actually a light being held up by a magic arm. I also have magic arms and super clamps holding onto my audio recorder right now. I have it holding onto a video transmitter, onto a V-mount plate. So it's just very useful at being able to clip a lot of different things and attach them to things. If you want to learn more about which ones to get, because there are a lot of different kinds, I actually made a video a couple of weeks ago about these super clamps and magic arms. So if you're interested, definitely check them out. I'll link them up here or in the description below. And finally, a bonus item for you is the Fujifilm X-M5. So this is a bonus item because it's literally only been out for like 2 weeks. So I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's very quickly becoming my favorite camera for run and gun situations or just when I'm going out to hang out with friends. Basically, I got this camera for things where I'm just going out for fun. I just want a very small camera to be able to document some moments. I don't want to be bringing a huge beast like this. This has been a really nice camera for me to use. And a lot of people might be looking at this camera versus like the Fujifilm X-100B. And there's a few reasons why I chose this one. So the way that the buttons and dials are on this camera, it's more of like a normal camera. So on my Sony cameras, I have a dial on the back and then also a dial here on the front. And the same goes with the X-M5. There's a dial on the front right here. And then there's also a dial on the back. Versus if you look at the X-100B, I have the X100F right here, but it's pretty much the same thing. You have dials on the top here, and you have to move these dials to be able to change settings, and also lift this dial to be able to change ISO. And the aperture would be on the front. So it's a lot more hassle to have to lift this button at the top right here. I prefer being able to change my settings really fast. So just having the dial on the front and the dial on the back here makes a lot more sense to me, and I really like that more. And obviously a big difference is that you have interchangeable lenses with this camera versus the X100B, you have a fixed lens. So for this, if I want to throw on different lenses, I'm able to do that. And I just think that in the long run, I will want to change to other lenses from time to time, and having that flexibility is really nice. They also have a film simulation dial on the top. I like being able to switch between my film simulations a lot without having to go onto a menu. Being able to just turn at the top here is just very easy for me, and I personally really like that. And then obviously the price, this is more than half the price of the X100B. So this was just kind of like a no-brainer for me. I didn't want to spend a ton for a camera that I was just going out to have lunch with friends or maybe just document some quick moments if I'm hiking or something. So yeah, getting a cheaper camera with interchangeable lenses and a body style that I like made this a no-brainer for me. So yeah, that's my favorite gear of 2024. Again, this is not like a buy guide. I'm not telling you to go out and buy everything. But if you are interested in some of these, maybe you haven't seen some of these products before, maybe you'll be interested in some of these as well. And I just want to share that with you. If you have any questions about any of these products, or if you want a dedicated video on any of these, definitely let me know in the comments below and I can make that for you. I also want to mention that if you've been watching my videos for the past couple months, thank you so much for the support. I know that getting likes and subscribers and all that is not why I make videos. I make videos because I really like making them. But obviously having all of the support and love that you showed me definitely makes it a lot easier. So thank you so much again for that. If there's any other videos that you want to see, even if it's not related to any of these products, definitely let me know in the comments below. If this video is helpful, definitely give this video a like, subscribe to see more photo video content, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.